if it's not Shedeur, I do think it's disappointing. I do think it's a question of why not? What is, we've gone through this, okay, Gabriel, if it's not Shedeur, because we know it's very much so pointing to the future in Cleveland, what's going on that Shedeur hasn't done enough or shown enough or displayed himself enough to be the backup quarterback in a season where we all know it's only about are any of those guys.
When your own teammates start questioning the coach, that's when you know something's wrong. In Cleveland, it's not just about football anymore. It's about loyalty, frustration, and a young quarterback who might be paying the price for someone else's fear. For weeks, fans have been asking the same question. Why isn't Shedeur Sanders starting? And now, that question isn't just coming from the stands. It's coming from inside the locker room. Jeudy, one of the Browns' most respected voices, finally broke his silence. He didn't hold back. He praised Shedeur's discipline, his work ethic, his leadership. And then, with a single sentence, he did something few players ever dare to do. He challenged his own coach's decision. According to Jeudy, Shedeur has been there since day one. First in the building, last to leave, studying every play, every read, every pressure. And yet, the Browns' head coach Kevin Stefanski refuses to give him the chance he's earned.
You know, he been doing a good job, you know, just understanding the plays, doing whatever the coach asks for him. You know, he been doing a great job of just, you know, being a pro and, you know, doing what he need to do to be able to, once he get his chance, to take advantage of that. So, you know, that's all we could ask for him to do. You know, once he get his opportunity, just take advantage of it.
But Jeudy isn't alone. Myles Garrett, the cornerstone of this team, backed him up, describing how Shedeur shows up before sunrise, spending extra hours in the coach's office, learning, preparing, waiting for his moment. It's not just dedication, it's obsession, the kind of drive you only see in players who are built for greatness. So why is the coach holding him back? Why does the team keep protecting him from opportunity instead of preparing him for it? And most importantly, if Shedeur doesn't get his shot here, will another team step in before Cleveland realizes what they've lost? Because one thing is certain, if the Browns don't move fast, their future quarterback might not be in Cleveland much longer. It all started when Jeudy, known for his calm demeanor and team-first attitude, finally decided to speak his mind. For weeks, reporters had been asking about the Browns' quarterback situation, and Jeudy had kept things professional. But this time, he didn't hoe.
You know, I got a lot of trust with those guys. You know, those guys been here since OTAs and since minicamp. You know, they've been doing their thing.
When asked about Shedeur Sanders and the ongoing uncertainty surrounding the QB position, Jeudy's tone changed. He leaned forward, looked straight into the camera, and said what every fan had been thinking. I don't get it. The kid's been doing everything right. Those words hit hard. They weren't just praise, they were a challenge, a direct shot at the coaching staff's indecision. Jeudy didn't stop there. He explained that Shedeur had been one of the most committed players on the roster since off-season training, showing up to OTAs early, staying late after every session, studying film, asking questions, and pushing himself to master every detail of the playbook. To Jeudy, this wasn't just about football. It was about respect. He made it clear that Shedeur had earned the trust of his teammates long ago. He's got the mindset, he's got the talent, and he's got the leadership. Jeudy said firmly, you can feel it when he steps on the field.
I always have to be mindful of our players and our players' development. And, you know, I want to make sure that I'm always doing what's best for our players and, of course, our team. But
that kind of statement doesn't happen by accident. In NFL locker rooms, players almost never speak out publicly against coaching decisions. Not unless something deeper is going on. For Jeudy to risk that, it showed just how much frustration was boiling beneath the surface. Fans picked up on it immediately. Within hours, social media was flooded with clips of Jeudy's comments. Headlines calling him the voice of the locker room, and posts demanding the Browns make a move. And while Jeudy's words lit the fuse, they were only the beginning, because the next player to speak up wasn't just a teammate. He was the face of the franchise. And what he said took the entire controversy to a whole new level. When Myles Garrett spoke, everyone listened. The team captain, the defensive anchor, the leader who rarely waded into locker room politics. He chose this moment to make his voice heard. And what he said left no room for doubt.
As a veteran, what's impressed you the most on how he's approached the game?
The time he takes, showing up early. Coach's office is easily seen when you walk in the building. And, almost every morning you see him in there, talking through plays, talking through schemes with Coach, making sure that he's ready for his moment when he...
Garrett didn't just defend Shedeur Sanders. He endorsed him. In a press conference that was supposed to be about the Browns' upcoming game, the questions turned toward the quarterback situation. Garrett paused, then smiled knowingly. You know who's in the building before most of us? Shedeur, he said. You walk in at sunrise and he's already there, talking to coaches, studying plays, asking questions. That's not normal for a rookie. That's rare. His comments painted a clear picture. A young quarterback doing everything right, and a coaching staff still holding him back. Garrett described how Shedeur's attitude had impressed even the most skeptical veterans, not just with his effort, but with his humility. He's not acting like he's owed anything, Garrett continued. He's acting like he's got something to prove every single day. Those words carried weight. Coming from the locker room's emotional core, they meant far more than another headline.
I won't say a waste of time, I don't know what that was, Of course, I wish all those plays connected, but, it's football. It's not going to be perfect all the time.
These are young players that you're so invested in their development, so I'll let the week play out and make a decision later on that.
Garrett wasn't stirring controversy for attention. He was calling out what many inside the organization already felt, but were too cautious to say aloud. His message was simple but powerful. The kid is ready. Reporters noted the change in tone around the team. The support for Shedeur was no longer subtle. It was loud, unified, and growing. Teammates were speaking up and fans were rallying behind them. But even as this wave of support built around Shedeur Sanders, one person remained unmoved: head coach Kevin Stefanski. Despite hearing praise from his own locker room leaders, Stefanski continued to downplay the possibility of a quarterback change. And that's when the tension shifted, from quiet disagreement to open defiance. Because if the coach wasn't listening to his players anymore, who was he listening to? Kevin Stefanski has always presented himself as calm, methodical, and in control. The kind of coach who never lets emotions dictate decisions. But lately, that calm exterior has started to look more like avoidance. When asked about the growing calls to start Shedeur Sanders, Stefanski's answers were careful, almost rehearsed. He emphasized player development, long-term plans, and doing what's best for the team. On paper, those words sounded reasonable. But to fans and even some players, they felt like excuses. We're focused on growth, Stefanski said in one press briefing. I want to make sure every decision we make benefits both the player and the team in the long run. The problem? Those same lines had been repeated for weeks with no actual movement. And every time he said them, it became clearer that Stefanski wasn't just being cautious. He was protecting something. Or someone. Inside the locker room, whispers began to spread. Was Stefanski afraid of risking his reputation by trusting a young quarterback? Or was there pressure from higher up pushing him to play it safe? Whatever the reason, the locker room's patience was wearing thin. Analysts started calling it the Stefanski paradox, a coach who talks about development but refuses to let development actually happen. Meanwhile, Shedeur kept showing up early, watching film, putting in the work, the kind of player you want to reward, not sideline. What made it worse was the double standard. Stefanski had no problem letting younger, less prepared players like Quinshon Judkins get opportunities. Yet Shedeur, the one showing leadership beyond his years, was still benched. To fans, it looked like stubbornness. To players, it looked like disrespect. And to analysts, it looked like a mistake waiting to explode. Because as Stefanski kept preaching patience, The rest of the football world was running out of it. And the next person to speak up wouldn't just question the decision. When ESPN analyst Dan Orlovsky weighed in, the conversation around Cleveland's quarterback situation changed overnight. Orlovsky isn't known for sugarcoating his opinions, and this time he didn't even try. Sitting in the studio, with frustration written all over his face, he looked straight into the camera and asked the question everyone else had been avoiding. If it's not Shedeur, then who? And why not? It was a direct challenge to Kevin Stefanski's leadership, the kind that echoes across every sports show and fan forum within hours. Orlovsky dissected the situation piece by piece, pointing out the contradictions in the Browns' so-called development plan. He reminded viewers that this season was supposed to be about evaluating the future, seeing what players like Dillon Gabriel and Shedeur Sanders could become. Instead, Cleveland had somehow turned into a revolving door of uncertainty. Let's be real, Orlovsky said. If Shedeur hasn't earned at least the QB2 spot by now, then what's the plan? Because I'm not seeing one. His words hit harder because they came from experience. Orlovsky, a former quarterback himself, understood what it meant to be kept waiting behind the excuse of development. He called it what it was: hesitation disguised as strategy. Within hours, clips of his breakdown flooded social media. Fans agreed, analysts piled on, and suddenly, the narrative had shifted. This wasn't just about a young player being benched. It was about a team losing its identity. Orlovsky's frustration mirrored the feeling of an entire fan base. They weren't just questioning Stefanski's decisions anymore. They were questioning his direction. And as the noise grew louder outside the building, the pressure inside started to boil. Because when national analysts start calling out your future plan, that's not criticism. That's a warning. By this point, Cleveland wasn't just talking about the quarterback situation. They were living it. Every sports bar, every radio show, every corner of social media was filled with the same question. Why is Shedeur Sanders still on the bench? The fan base, known for its loyalty and patience, had finally reached its breaking point. After years of rebuilding and endless next season promises, they'd had enough. Fans started flooding comment sections with messages like "Play the kid" and "We're tired of excuses." The frustration wasn't just about football anymore. It was about trust. Cleveland supporters have seen this story before. A talented young player full of potential, wasted by indecision and poor management. And this time, they refused to watch it happen again. Fans saw how hard Shedeur was working, how much his teammates respected him, and how little that seemed to matter. To them, it wasn't just unfair. It was a betrayal of everything Cleveland claimed to stand for. Inside the stadium, chants for Shedeur grew louder each week. At one point, fans even held signs that read, "Let him play," and "The future is now." And still, Stefanski stayed silent. Each press conference sounded the same. More patience, more talk about timing. But fans didn't want timing. They wanted truth, because deep down, Cleveland knew this was bigger than one player. It was about direction, about whether this franchise was willing to embrace change or stay trapped in fear. And as the anger turned into momentum, rumors began to swirl. Whispers that another team might already be watching. A team ready to give Shedeur the shot Cleveland wouldn't. And that rumor would send shockwaves through the league. The first whispers started quietly. A tweet here, a radio segment there, but within days it exploded. The Las Vegas Raiders were reportedly showing interest in Shedeur Sanders. At first, nobody wanted to believe it. How could the Browns' most talked about player, their supposed quarterback of the future, already be on another team's radar? But as more insiders began hinting that the Raiders were closely watching the situation in Cleveland, the possibility suddenly felt real. Reports claim the Raiders front office has been monitoring Shedeur's progress since training camp. One analyst said on live TV, "They see the same thing everyone else sees, a young leader waiting for his shot." And just like that, panic set in. For fans, it wasn't excitement, it was fear. Because if another franchise recognized Shedeur's potential before Cleveland did, it would confirm what everyone had suspected. The Browns weren't just slow, they were blind. Imagine the optics, losing a generational talent not because he failed, but because the organization refused to believe in him. The same player their veterans were defending. The same player their fans were begging to see. The same player their coach kept hidden behind excuses. If Shedeur really did find a new home, it wouldn't just be a loss. It would be an embarrassment. A message to every rising star that Cleveland doesn't reward hard work. It hesitates in the face of it, and maybe that's why the rumors hit so hard. Because they weren't just about the Raiders. They were about what the Browns were becoming. Whether the reports were true or not, one thing was clear. The clock was ticking. If Kevin Stefanski and the Browns didn't act soon, someone else would. And when that happens, the regret won't just belong to the coach. It'll echo through the entire franchise. Because in this league, hesitation is the fastest way to lose everything. At this point, the Cleveland Browns are standing on a thin line between progress and collapse. The entire league is watching, players, analysts, and fans, waiting to see what Kevin Stefanski will do next. But one thing has become painfully clear. This isn't just about who starts at quarterback. It's about what kind of team the Browns want to be. Shedeur Sanders has done everything right. He's shown up early, stayed late, studied film, built relationships, and earned the respect of veterans who don't hand out praise easily. He's proven he's ready, not just with words, but with work. And yet, week after week, the opportunity he's earned sits untouched on the sideline. Jerry Jeudy and Myles Garrett didn't speak out for drama. They spoke out because they see what's at stake, a young leader being held back by hesitation. To them, it's not just about Shedeur. It's about accountability, trust, and belief. The same qualities that make great teams or destroy them. Meanwhile, the pressure keeps growing. Fans are done waiting. Analysts are done asking politely. And even opposing teams are circling like sharks, ready to make a move if Cleveland doesn't. If Stefanski's goal was to protect Shedeur from pressure, he may have done the opposite. Now, the spotlight is brighter than ever. Because when you keep a player like that on the bench for too long, you're not protecting him, you're wasting him. The Browns wanted to build for the future, but that future is already here, and it's wearing number 2. Now it's up to Stefanski. Take the risk, trust the talent, and give Shedeur Sanders the keys. Or keep playing it safe and watch another team do it first. Because in the NFL, moments like this define legacies, not just for players, but for coaches too. And Cleveland's next decision might be the one they never recover from.